Episode 2, baby. 2 weeks. 2 weeks in a row. We didn't stop after one bad episode. We're back with a second. You ready? I hope you're ready, because we're doing it regardless. It's Cross. I'm back again. I know you didn't want me back, but I'm back. And this week, I have a French one with me. Say something in French to him, Mellow. Say something.
Salut bande de putes, ça va ou pas?
See?
Yo, what's up everyone?
See, that makes no sense. That's a fake language. So obviously he's French.
You say that, but like most of your language is like comprised of like vowels that we brought to your country to England first.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mello. Do we have to have the whole like water ant green like discussion again? I
I mean,
mean,
this is ridiculous. None of those like sound the same. It's just context. You know what I mean?
yeah, French is a fake made up language. I mean, it's very obvious that it is. You know?
Yeah. Okay, go right ahead. Show some proof.
Well, I mean, France is a fake made up place, obviously.
Yeah, and I'm not real. I'm actually Québécois, but just pretending to be French.
Yeah, that
But
makes
you know, don't let the others know.
yeah. Alright. Episode 2. Me, Mello this time. If I was a good guest, he'll be back in a future episode, so look forward to him. Today, me and Mello are going to be discussing a few different things, topics including French and American relations, investment. Me and Mello are both business majors. And finally, cute anime girls that stream on YouTube and occasionally on
And
Twitch. Yeah,
That's my
but
favorite part.
who cares about Twitch? But regardless, Mello, please tell us why it is that all Frenchmen are cheese-eating surrender monkeys, and why you guys have never won a war, you rely on every other nation to save you because you surrender immediately, and you're all very smelly, hairy, and do nothing but drink wine all day.
All right. Well, first we have to go back to the 90s, 2000s. George W. Bush and the Gulf War. Essentially, Americans wanted to go to war in the Gulf, and they were like, "Hey, friends from Europe, from the rest of the world, come and help us bombard those innocent Middle Eastern people." And the French president at the time was just like, "Yeah, no, we don't want to. This isn't cool." And because of that, they run a psyop disinformation psyop in order to decredibilize France at the eyes of the world. So now we are cheese-eating surrender monkeys, and French fries aren't actually French; they're freedom fries. Thanks a lot, America. Thanks
Well,
for that.
here's the thing, Mello, you guys didn't even invent French fries. Belgians did.
That's
So,
implying that Belgium isn't like just like friends, a friends region wannabe. Like,
I know from many old 90s comedies that the French hate the Belgian because they think they're some type of inferior version of yourself. But, I mean, look, you guys are existential nihilists and boring. So, I mean, the Belgians are doing a lot better.
well, the thing is, Belgians are a weird like crossbreed between like the Dutch, the French, and Germans somehow. And about nihilism, nihilism, whatever. Uh, you know, the Germans, you can't beat them on that. Like those fucks are depressing as hell, man.
Well, I mean, look at their whole language. I mean, it's nothing but angry sounds. A woman can be amazingly, like, hot, but if she starts speaking German, it's like, unless you're into that sort of thing, it's like you're gonna go limp. It just doesn't work. Like, Russian has the opposite effect. They can sound as angry as they want to, and they just sound amazing.
Yeah, German's just an ugly language, which makes sense because it's pretty fucking close to English. But
At the same time, though, German does make more sense than French.
okay,
German also
well,
has amazingly specific words for specific things that, French doesn't, or any other language. So,
it goes to show, like these people are so utilitarian. They don't know about poesy, they don't know about poetry. My bad. They don't know about the beauty of letting words flow, and they need like a hyper specific word for every situation because they're just this kind of sad, lonely, gray people. Us Frenchmen and Frenchwomen, we just have this wonderful language that most of the time we don't even use properly because we're too busy like being grumpy over work or like salaries or like many other social issues.
Well, yes, I mean, France is a very socialist nation because you guys are all communists. You commie.
Honestly, yeah, we're all communists. Even the right wing here, they're basically commies to the average American. Genuinely, just like we have healthcare, like insane. We pay for the people. This is like disgusting, baffling even to the American eye. But
Well, Mel, let me ask you though. I mean, how long you gotta wait for that health care though? You know?
I mean, honestly, yeah, fair enough. We're not like I heard like Canada was pretty ridiculous with that. France isn't like garbage tier awful, but yeah, you do have to wait for a little bit. Like if you go to the emergency room, you might have to wait for like 10 to 12 hours,
Yeah,
depending on
Mellow.
how.
I went to an emergency room when I like sliced open my hand and needed stitches, and that was a packed emergency room. They made me wait 2 hours. Like 2 hours.
Yeah,
Like you guys are waiting like in an ER for like 10 to 12 hours. That's ridiculous. That's the thing. Like you when it comes to like healthcare and you either have one of the two things. I know there's a third system. I think it's in Denmark or something where they have a much better healthcare than like either of ours. It's like a better version. Like a weird combination of ours, but it's a superior version of the capitalist sort of healthcare system. And
I mean,
but regardless,
I
when
mean,
when you get down to it, you either have the American healthcare system where you get charged out the ass for literally everything, and you're never going to be able to fully afford anything unless you're wealthy, or you have the Canadian and European healthcare system where you will not have to really pay for anything, yourself. Most of it comes out of taxpayer, but you're also probably going to die in the ER waiting for treatment.
well, yeah, but speaking of like Denmark or like whatever country you mentioned, like the thing is these places have it easy because when your population's as big as like a fucking city in either of our countries, like it's a lot easier to manage and like it's a lot easier to like use taxes for like their intended purposes and like not have people wait for hours on end. So like I think it's a little unfair. I don't like all the comparisons that both systems have, and I'm like, oh yeah, look at Sweden, look at Denmark, look at like Finland, look at how good they are. So I
Well,
feel like it's an unfair comparison when people make it.
well, I mean,
But yeah,
I mean, it's always unfair to me because people always try to compare the U.S. like healthcare system and why we couldn't get like social healthcare, and the real issue isn't even that. I I don't know really how to say that correctly. It's like the reason that we have such a bogged down healthcare system is more of an issue because we have so many like people that are being a drain on the system. I mean, we have tons of people that are in this country that aren't taxpayers or anything, and they come over here. They use like the healthcare system. They use resources that citizens would need, and they basically don't pay for them. You know?
I mean that's pretty much how it is in every European country though. Like what our immigrants problem
No, yeah, but I mean, like that. It's worse here, man. Like,
is it?
I mean, it is. I mean, there's millions of people coming here every year that like aren't legally supposed to be here, and they come here and like,
Filthy Mexicans.
well, I mean, it's not even necessarily just like people from Mexico. It's like people from South and Central America, but I mean, it probably is like a lot of like Mexican nationals. But regardless, we're getting a little off topic here. We,
A little bit.
yeah. Uh, let's swing back around. Mello, what is something that in your time of talking to people from America, you have changed like your mindset on something you first thought was a universal concept for Americans?
Um, I guess like kindness. I have always had this view of Americans as being very self-centered, as being like, it's me, 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 my guns, my country, my town, my money. and like it's mine, and if you want something, you have to work for it. But many times I've seen like American people be among the most generous people, like like someone had like to pay for like a medical expense, that sort of thing. All my American friends would like just come together and like give him some money, like no issue, no repaying, none of that, like without a second thought. And I think that's actually quite admirable, and that's one thing that's changed, that like my yeah, one thing that I have noticed wasn't true is like Americans are individualistic, but they're not selfish, or at least not the ones I've been around.
I would say we're selfish in the way that it's good to be selfish. Like, I would say we're very, like you said, like self made people. We try not to rely on others too much, but that doesn't mean we're not against helping each other. We're very much like Americans are, we're all from the different groups of people, but we are united under the flag, and that makes us brothers under the same nation. We're not uh, like you immigrate here, you become naturalized, and you become an American, and that means like you're now part of the nation. Like we're
Hmm.
a conglomerate of people, like the old melting pot thing. I don't really like using the term that much anymore, but it is a good like descriptor.
Hmm. It's funny because France, America, and America have a very differing options on like being kind of like an immigrant nation, because French has this thing like the French universalist policy. And it's kind of the opposite of what's going on in America. In America, it's as you said, it's like the melting pot. You got Chinese people, they come in, they bring in the Chinese culture. You have like those like Irish people, they come in, they bring in their Irish culture. But these South American people, they come in, they bring in their South American culture, and so on and so on. Meanwhile, France, like this French universalist ideal, that's kind of, I wouldn't say it's been forgotten. There's actually right now like a lot of political debate about that, but essentially like like it's the same. You come into France, you're a French person, you get naturalized and all that, you follow the French customs, and you have to quote unquote leave your culture back where but like back where you came from. You have to like integrate in French society, and like so in the end you're all equal regardless of skin color, religion, and all that, if you're willing to conform to French society. And there's a lot of debate about that, because now we live in a world where like everything is very Americanized, and with Americanized like culture comes Americanized like
Ideals.
IDs and ideals.
Yeah.
Exactly. So people are like trying to like imitate that melting pot that America has that France didn't have. And so there's a lot of questions about Islam, about how black and white people interact, that I don't remember having when I was very young, because we were we just everyone pretty much followed that principle of universalism. And you were French, black, Arabic, white, so long as you were under the same flag, same culture, same ideas, you were a French person. And now I think it's become a little more complex now.
Yeah, I think that's always been a thing for Europe, is that you guys have always been less about like race as a fixture of what separates you, and more like nationalists sort of thing. Like it doesn't really matter what your skin tone is, it more matters what country you were actually born in.
Hmm.
And that's
Exactly.
and not even that, it's also like class. You guys have always been more separated by class and national borders. Like Germans are very proud of being German, and the French are very proud of being French, while Americans are very proud of being American. uh, we don't really rep our states as much as we rep like our country. Like you guys don't rep the EU, you rep that you're
Oh God,
French.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, you rap that you're French, and even beyond that, you rap that you're from this region. You rap that you're from Brittany. You rap that you're from Corsica.
Yeah,
Those are
and
like the two big ones.
yeah, and
You
the
rap that you're from Alsace.
yeah, and the only time you actually like in the U.S. you're repping that you're from a specific area is if you're talking to someone else that's from the same state, or if you're like in a rivalry, like how New York and California are in that eternal like East Coast West Coast rivalry.
Hmm.
But uh, really, I think France becoming sort of a melting pot is doing it a disservice. I mean, it's not that sort of nation. And while I mean, you guys are very I mean, we're not great about treating some of our group of people, obviously, but you guys also have the issue, I mean, with the gypsy population and everything, you know?
Well, I mean, gypsies are their own things, you know. I think like, you know, there's a whole debate with like black people and like Arabs and Muslims, you know, Arab Muslim people, and then there's like the whole gypsy thing. Like for as long as I can remember, they were always kind of outcast. Like that's the way that they chose to live, to not integrate and to always like be on the road and stuff. And they have always had this bad reputation of like, you know, stealing copper, you know, like robbing houses, that sort of thing. But even then, like you don't hear from them too much unless you're like right next to them and they're like fucking things up. But lately, on the like political like debate, you know, you don't really hear much about gypsies at all. It's pretty much only like black and white people. Are you racist? Are you not? And like Islam and, you know, not Islam. So yeah, it's always very gypsies are their own thing, to be honest.
Well, also, I'd like to go back to something else you mentioned where, like, we let people in here and, like, we bring the Chinese, we bring the Irish and everything, but it's like we don't just want them to keep their own culture. We want them to kind of integrate into ours. Like, the thing about naturalization when it comes to America is very much like you can come here, you move to somewhere with your own population if that's what you want, like Chinatown or something like that, and you
Hmm.
still speak Mandarin and you still like celebrate the Chinese holidays, but also you speak English, like celebrate federal holidays, like you do the things that are part of the American like culture, you know. You don't just
Hmm.
still be Chinese when you move here, you know. It's kind of like
Hmm.
you have to you keep some aspects and you lose some of the other like key things. Like you keep the main aspects, but you lose some of the more broad details.
Hmm.
See what I mean?
Yeah, no, here I get it, and I think here in France, like the government and like, you know, kind of like French society kind of disapproves of that sort of idea. You know, like the fact that like the Chinatown exists, you know, like it's not a good thing for France because like we don't want people to be among like themselves like all the time and like keep on speaking the language and that sort of thing, because essentially that breeds like that breeds like social issues, you know, because when it's like people like the Irish or like, I don't know, the Italians or whatever that have a culture close enough to ours, you know, they're Christian, you know, they have their own thing. When they're in their own communities and stuff, well, it doesn't breed that much difference because French culture is pretty close to that, and you know the culture that they keep on growing, that they imported from their country, there's no issue here. But when you bring in people from a widely different culture, from like sub-Saharan African culture, you know, North African culture, that sort of thing, which are very different from French culture, in the way that they treat people, in the work values, in the religious values. Because of that, like when these people, you bring them in and you just like let them be among one another, and you like essentially don't try to integrate and assimilate them into French culture. They keep their culture and the issues that come with their culture, and there's a lot of cultural shocks. And because of that, you have like young people from these cultures who are just like very lost because they're kind of lost between those two cultures and not really belonging to one and the other. And we have a lot of issues about that. So,
Well, I mean that sort of thing does happen here. I mean, we have something like Little Italy, for an example. I mean, they, like they flourish in New York, and they've like grown out of Little Italy, but at the same time, like there are aspects that like you keep certain things, and it clashes with a lot of the rest of the ideals for the nation, I guess. So I understand what you're saying, and to an extent, like modern America, we don't really want them sort of grouping up like that because it can cause so many more issues than anything else. So modern America, yeah, I can agree with you that we don't really want them grouping up like they did back in the day when like Chinatowns and Little Italies were first being made.
mhm.
But back in the day, they were made more out of necessity than like, uh, just because they wanted to be made. But
And even then, yeah, like the origins, like as you said, it's out of necessity. You have all these Chinese people who come into a land of opportunity or whatever, and so they just like group together because that's normal. When you're in a foreign nation, you don't know the language, you don't know the people, you're gonna stick with the people you know. In France, that sort of thing was very different. France was a colonial power, and after the war, after World War II, we brought in like a lot of North African people, a lot of sub-Saharan African people, and we messed up. Like we politically we messed up because we just like put them all together in those big concrete towers, and that's where they stayed. And of course, we didn't try to assimilate them, we just brought them, told them, yeah, you have a job, you do that, and then after that, we didn't care, we just put them in those like shitty housings,
now
and that's it. And of course, and now,
they all NTR all of your wives and your mothers. I mean,
see, that's another stereotype, but
yeah. Well,
but there are a lot of social issues now born from it because,
yeah. Well, I've got I don't know, when it comes to most of my thoughts on something I held true about the French. Before really getting to know someone like you, I mean, in the past you've known I have like not been quiet about my actual dislike of the French because I had some really bad experiences with them when I was a lot younger. Like I had a French foreign exchange
yeah,
student steal my
I remember
wallet,
that.
and
I
it's like,
remember that
yeah,
one.
yeah. And I mean, ever since then, I've always associated with like, I mean, the old stereotype of the French are very rude people. But you've made it very clear that it's not the French themselves, but is the Parisians that are the issue.
Yeah, fuck Parisians, man. Fuck Parisians. Like, those people, quote unquote people, they're the worst in any way, shape, or form. No matter the social class, is that the rich Parisians or like the poor Parisians that live in like the suburbs and stuff, they all fucking suck. You don't want to go there. You don't want to be there. You don't want to talk to them. You want to associate with them as little as possible. Those bitches will gentrify your neighborhoods and drive rent prices through the fucking roof everywhere they go. This is hell. Parisians are hell.
That's Californians, man. Like we can like disagree on so much, but the thing we can agree on is that Californians and Parisians are two of the worst group of people to exist on the planet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we need to find a solution to purge them. It's the only thing we can do at this point.
Um. Okay.
But Cross,
Yeah.
what about you? Are there any values that like hanging out with me has like it has changed your mind on? Before you might have been like not necessarily about friends, but just about values in general. Like,
Well,
if
but
you believe something.
Well, before you, I had a very deep, like, belief that despite everything, that France had a rich, deep culture for cuisine, and that the French very seriously took every advantage to make their meals amazing out of whatever they are. I mean, France is well known around the world as one of the cuisine capitals of the world, but
Rightfully so.
yeah,
Rightfully
but
so.
after you knowing you, Mel, I now know that it's true, and that French eat worse and have worse taste than the average American, and that you guys will eat the worst cheese-filled swill that I can imagine.
Okay, but that's not a French thing. That's just a me thing. I just have shit taste. I'll
Yeah,
admit it.
yeah, you do. You
All
just
those
have
food
like,
insider videos, full of cheese and like fat and like disgusting juicy meat. I love that shit. But
uh,
it's not all French people,
yeah.
thankfully.
But
Uh,
as far as it goes, like something ideal-wise that you have imparted onto me, I don't know, man. We we talk quite a bit, but when it comes to like aspects of you being French that have put something onto me, I can't really think of anything. I mean, you and I,
maybe you maybe you accept socialism more now. Maybe you're like,
no.
maybe 5 weeks of paid vacation isn't too bad.
Well, no, but
Maybe
Mello,
35 hours a week isn't so bad.
well, no, but Mello, I've always like had certain aspects about business that I've been very, like, yeah, that's understandable. Like, I mean, yeah, I do think that like paid time off is understandable, or like you need to have like rights as a worker. I mean, there are very basic things that obviously I'm totally on board with. There's some things that like I don't know if I'm on board with. Like I always go back and forth on maternity leave and like what is up with that because should a company actually pay for you when you got pregnant? It doesn't involve the company at all. And it's a weird thing where, like, gut feeling wise, yes, maternity leave is necessary, but the company's not getting any benefits from it, so why do they? You see what I
Well,
mean?
I think that we can't be entirely like utilitarian for the lack of a better word, you know? Like you can't just think about the numbers, you have to think about the person. And even if on paper it means like losing out on revenue, if it means like losing out of productivity or anything like that, I think it's important to consider that a company, it's not just the sum of like the productivity of its workers, but it's more than that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's why like even if from a like monetary point of view, yeah, it's a straight loss to offer like I don't know so much maternity leave. I think like in order if your company wants to like not only just make money but quote unquote like better the world, or like even if it doesn't want to better the world, but if it doesn't want to like make it any worse, I think that's something that you should be willing to quote unquote sacrifice there.
Hmm. Okay.
But just before you go ahead, I wanted to talk about one of the ideas that you American friends of mine have imparted into me.
Go ahead.
Uh, it's freedom, real freedom. You know, guns. Like
Well, I mean, well, I
the one
mean,
example is guns.
Well, I mean, Mellow, as you have known in the past year, America has lost a big grip on our freedoms. So now you might want to be specific and say that the people that most inspire you now are the Floridians, our brothers in arms, the people that are the most free people in the U.S., the Floridians. And I
I mean,
say
even
that,
in all of the world.
yeah, and I say that without joking. I mean that literally. Florida, the most free place in the entire world at the moment.
Well, even political dealings aside, like that, I think that like the American like gun ownership, I think it's like a wonderful thing. You know, like for the people because a state like cannot like if all the citizens of a state have a weapon, it means that this state is going to be so much harder to invade. But now we live in a world where like land invasions like in like the world wars or whatever are extremely unlikely nowadays. However, it also means that like a state can't impose like its will on a country full of armed citizens. And I think it's really wonderful because it gives them the monopoly, quote unquote, of violence. It takes the monopoly of violence away from the state, and I think it gives like every man like the ability to defend himself and his family and his loved ones.
Well,
And I think
Mellow,
that's something that's really like
go ahead.
that we miss here in Europe.
Yeah. Well, Mel, let me go and say this. That is possibly the most American thing you've ever said. And on this great day of Independence Day, the day when we took our way of life, our nation, and our future away from the British, who would impose heavy taxation on us without representation and take away the freedoms that we hold, that we took for ourselves. And here's the thing people don't often realize that the things in the Constitution aren't just like freedoms that the government are supposed to allow. The Constitution is a written set of God given rights. You as a American citizen, you as a person are supposed to have the freedom of speech and the one that you're talking about, the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, the right to bear arms shall not be infringed by any government body, and the states should be allowed to form their own militia should the necessary thing become. And I'm paraphrasing that obviously because I'm not
Mhm.
reading it directly, but you know what I mean. You
I
are
know what you mean.
correct. The founding fathers really understood, obviously, that the necessity to be able to arm yourself and rise up to a governmental body, government tyranny that has taken over your life and imposed its will on you and taken away your God given opportunities is a universal necessity. And that is something that America really, you're right, we are good about. Over the decades, we've tried to curve gun ownership, gun, violence or anything with laws, but really, we get down
Friends to
to it,
leave.
it
Friends to
is,
leave. You can't take the guns away from every single American citizen,
it
but
is,
for every person who'll turn in this gun, there's gonna be like 10 more who have their grandpa's gun like given to them, like just like from hand to hand without
I
letting the
mean,
government know. That's
it's,
something that I
it's
think is
an,
beautiful.
it's a necessity. I would say even the reason behind the ownership of the firearm is so necessary that it outweighs the danger that we have to deal with all the time. It outweighs the school shootings, it outweighs the violence, it outweighs the gang violence, it outweighs everything because the fact that you're right. If every American citizen has the ability and is armed, it makes the government and those who would try to infringe on any of those freedoms of the citizenry more afraid and less likely to try anything. It is literally the snake with the grenade saying, try, fuck around and find out.
Hmm.
It
No,
is,
literally.
yeah,
It makes sense for a state to want and ban like private ownership of weapons because for the state's like point of view for like because for the state to like be to guarantee that its existence in the future, to safeguard its existence independent of like the people's views and ideas about it, it's important that it has a monopoly of violence, and when you have a country like America, the state like it makes sense that like if you're a European country regulate firearms that you're not allowed to like you know exercise like your right to bear arms or whatever, which we don't have, but because the state it's gonna it's gonna want to be able to do whatever it wants regardless of like the will of the citizens, and when those citizens don't have a way to enact their will anymore, like either by like democracy or like by through force, like the state absolutely wins.
yeah.
And luckily I don't think in France we're like non-democratic countries, we have some issues. I have some issues like the democracy of the EU. I'm not against the EU in general, but I have issues with the democracy of the EU. But I do feel like we aren't like elections aren't rigged. I do feel like there's some level of representation for most parties,
Yeah.
for most people, even if
Um,
it's not ideal. There we try essentially,
yeah.
so it's not that big an issue. But if things were to like turn sour, and the state were to like exist in a way that does not benefit its citizens at all anymore, then yeah, we would be in trouble because we would have no way to rebel. So
And actually, Mel, this whole conversation has made me realize there is something about, and it's something that I've garnered from you, and it's something that I wish Americans would do. It's an ideal that you hold, which is, especially nowadays, people are not proud of their country. You know what I mean?
mhm.
The most Americans I talk to, even from the South, are very much like they're not proud to be an American anymore. But you're very proud to be French. You are proud of the history. You're proud of the legacy that it's left on the world. You are proud of all of this. Your hometown, the minute details, all of this. You are proud of all that. But the average American is very much like, I'm not proud of this country. I don't love this country or anything. And I might not even know most of the history for this country. And it's a sad thing because, I mean, we became a superpower in only 300 years. We became the most powerful nation
I mean,
in only 300 years.
you had extremely good conditions. You had very good like like material, like mineral resources. You were far away from any world war that could happen in Europe and in Asia. And of course, if you just had to sit to the sidelines, watch the world get like watch until like Europe went to shit, and just go back in and just be like, hey, we're gonna help you out. Just become dependent on us and shit like that. It was easy. It was easy.
I mean, Mellow, but we also had to fight one of the largest empires in the world to do it. And we didn't just have to fight them once, we had to fight them twice.
Fair enough.
I mean,
But
that's one thing people always forget is that like the fact that we won the Revolutionary War is astounding because it's literally a ragtag group of like poor farmers and peasants and a few like English nobles deciding that they didn't want to follow the like royal crown decree anymore, and
but I think.
and they fought one of the most like heavily armed, best like funded military might at the time. You know?
But I think that like history, time and time again, has proven that no matter how oppressive a state is, if its people are unhappy with it and like they will lead a revolution. Maybe it will fail the first time, maybe the second, maybe the third, but eventually, there's gonna be people, and the flame of like revolution won't be extinguished just like that. It will only like stop once like they have accomplished the goal, and we can see that through like all of the world's history. We can see
Yeah.
that with the Russians, we can see that with the French, you can see that with Americans. You can see that with like the Chinese up to a point,
Well,
etc., etc.
well,
And the thing is like
except for the
this.
except the thing is with the Chinese. I mean, that revolution led to the Great Leap Forward, and
Okay,
that's
yeah,
not good.
that's the latest one. But
Yeah.
in Chinese history, there were many revolutions and
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, I mean,
You can
there's the
see some
War of the
with Japan. And,
War of the Three Kingdoms and everything. I know what you mean, but
yeah,
well,
all that thing.
well, I mean, the only thing that I have to say though is like, it's hard to compare the American Revolution to any other one because it's the most successful one to ever
Hmm.
happen. It formed its own nation. There were comparatively minimal loss of life, and getting the government on its feet afterward it wasn't painless, but it wasn't a slaughterhouse, you know? I mean, the Russian Revolution obviously led to the rise of communism, and that led to the death of a lot of opposition in its wake. And even the French Revolution has been called
Yeah, I know it was a
one of the
mess. It
bloodiest
was a mess.
revolutions in the world in history. And it
Hmm.
just, I mean, we had something of a miracle happen, and that's kind of the best description. But when it really comes down to it, that's what I mean. I don't like the state I'm from. I've made that very clear. But I am proud to be an American because we fought one of the world's largest empires. We won. We created a nation out of nothing, pretty much. And for 300 years, we've been a world superpower. And we have so much rich history because of it. We have so many amazing different parts of our country that you would think you could explore this entire state for the rest of your life and not see half of it. But that's true of the entire country. And it's not just we're a homogenous group, we're so many different people and so many different foods and cultures and so many things to see. I mean, really, when you come to America, the thing to even do isn't to go to the big cities, it's to drive around the country and go to the small towns, see the interesting people. You get to see what people are really like, see the real heartland of America, and learn like what people think, how people do the day to day. And it's just these minute things that you look into that are the most important part, I think, in your life. It's not spending time in the big cities and seeing like everything that's going on there. It's nice to take a trip to them, but what really matters is going into the heartland of the U.S. and seeing like the small diners that are run by people and getting a cup of coffee and talking to a waitress for 30 minutes and then driving off, going 200 miles, and then doing something completely different in a whole other small town. It's talking to these people that you're never going to meet again, and that you're a
Hmm.
passing glance in their life, and they're a passing glance in your life, and it's the impact that you allow it to make. You know what I
I
mean?
think I get what you mean. I think it's very romantic. It's a very romantic depiction of America, but it's one that I like a lot as well.
Yeah,
So if I ever come to America, that's what I'll be doing for sure.
yeah.
God bless America.
God bless the United States of America. Unironically and forever true for however long the great empire, this great nation may last. Man. All right, all
And
right.
may God bless this mess that I live in.
Yeah,
Friends, please. Please remain relevant in the future.
Why
I know
can't
you're on a bad path, but
why
I'm sure we can change things
why
up.
can't you guys all just be cool like Napoleon? Huh? Why can't you guys all just be giga chads like Napoleon?
Well, slavery is not legal anymore, and I don't think we can just invade other countries anymore just like that.
Well,
But
I mean that's what happened. You guys exiled the one giga chad twice, and then like you might
we
have,
didn't. The king, and his friends did.
and then you let like his not his actual son, but his
I think it
sem
was his nephew or something.
yeah his nephew, because it was the son of his sister. Then he got to be the second emperor of France, and you guys loved him. And then like eventually his I forget which Napoleon it was after that became the first president. Like you guys loved Napoleon. He's the Giga Chad of Giga Chads for France. Charles
I
de
mean,
Gaulle? Who's that? The only person you need to know about in France was Napoleon.
well, the thing is that you don't understand French people that we have this deep-seated um, unsatisfaction with any political system. It means that like every president, every political party, everything needs to be thrown out the window as the earliest possible convenience because we actually fucking hate everyone. But we actually hate every single politician and political party and
That's
political system.
that's French
All
nihilism
of
for you.
it. Alrighty.
All right. Well, Mel, also doing politics is economics, and we're both business majors, so let's talk business. Mello,
Let's. Let's.
you're currently doing an internship for sort of a real estate thing. How are you liking that?
Well, I feel like more like I'm in the French administration because I'm not doing much of anything because they don't have any fucking work to give me, so I'm just fucking sitting on my ass and reading about like VTubers all day. But when I do work, it's actually kind of interesting.
Well, I mean, Mello, you've just described what it's like to work in the American government as a bureaucrat. So,
Seems like all bureaucrats are the same. But yeah.
I mean, the most.
Otherwise, what I can say,
Go ahead.
what I can say about where I live is that fucking Parisians ruin the fucking market and everything is extremely fucking expensive, and
Yeah,
that most people are absolutely incompetent in the workplace as well.
yeah, we've noticed that at the moment, especially, there's a large downturn in pretty much every like viable financial market. And while right now is a great time to buy, pretty much, it's the worst time in probably a decade to try to sell. Especially when it comes to the crypto market. I mean, things have just gone to complete shit. I mean, I
Yeah, crypto.
personally, I would blame Elon Musk. I blame Elon Musk. I hate that guy with a passion because I almost am 99% sure he is the sole reason that the crypto market is now tanked. And you could tell me the Chinese banning, the U.S. government possibly introducing a new like altcoin of its own, the Saudis mining for Bitcoin, all this different stuff, but it's Musk. It is that stupid Dogecoin, him doing his pump and dumps on it, and then going on SNL and saying, "Oh, it's a joke," and then tanking it, and then people losing
I
faith in crypto as an idea.
I can't fucking believe I bought Dodge. Anyways, this was such a fucking mess.
Yeah.
But
Well, no,
yeah, I mean I think Elon Musk is like, if I had to choose like a billionaire to like rule over me, I think I'd pick none of them ideally. But if I had to choose between Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Bill Gates, I think I'd pick Elon Musk because he's funny,
no. The
and
one,
I may
no,
work to death. I may work to death in his lunar colony, but at least he'll be funny.
No, Mello, the billionaire you want to rule you if you have to have one is Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban is like a weird frat boy that like has $1 billion and owns like a bunch of businesses and has like a bunch of sports teams, and he's like George W. Bush before George W. Bush became president. He's a weird frat guy that is somehow rich and it doesn't make sense. But he is the less of all evils seemingly. But Mello, long ago, when I first started talking about crypto and it was funny money would cross, you guys all mocked me. Y'all said, shut up, you stupid like internet fake magic money." And now you're all like riding the crypto wave. Now y'all are like, "Oh yeah, this is a great thing. I wish someone had told us about this forever ago." Like,
I mean,
oh,
I did buy Dogecoin back when it was at like 6 cents, so like not even that, 4 cents. So I mean, I didn't buy much of it. I bought some of it, called it, but
Well,
no, yeah, crypto was I think like one great opportunity to like make a lot of money, and now like there's regulations coming, at least in Europe. Now there's like everyone knows about it, but like if you were there when it started, the whole Bitcoin thing, even if you bought like like when Bitcoin was worth like $500, $1,000, I think that
you'd be
you could have
making
rode the wave.
you'd be
You
making
could have
like
rode the
a
wave so
you'd be
well.
making a 100 time like profit on it regardless. I mean, ideally you would have bought back when it was, $5-10, but
Yeah, but let's be real, everyone like I knew about Bitcoin, I've been online for like a while,
yeah.
but like I knew about Bitcoin when like not when it came out, but I know of its existence, it was like 50 euros or something, and we heard of it, was like, yeah, funny internet money, and that was it, it was just a thing,
See,
but like no one could expect that it would go this hard.
See, back in the day, I really tried to get into Bitcoin. I tried to do the Bitcoin mining thing, and that was I watched this video. I forget it was like a PBS like YouTube channel that did different videos on different topics, and one of them was like talking about Bitcoin as a emerging currency and the TF2 hat market as a viable alternative to certain type of economic markets, because there's actually a country, I forget, I think it's Papua New Guinea or something, where TF2, the in-game hat market is more viable for commodities than the actual like economic system of Papua New Guinea.
That's kind of ugly,
Yeah.
considering the fucking markets. But no, more seriously, like due to like how like obscure like the whole technology behind all of it is, like not many people could have realistically gotten into it, even with the knowledge of it, until it kind of became like somehow mainstream with like big like uh with big crypto platforms, like making buying like crypto like much easier than before.
Well, see,
So.
I looked into it a while back, and there actually were sites that would sell you Bitcoin back in the day, but back in the day, it wasn't really clear how you actually got Bitcoin. It was like, do I buy it? Do I have to mine it? It wasn't super clear. But I mean, I feel like if you had gone, if you could go back in time, back to when Bitcoin was like 25 cents or something, you could sink as much money as you want to in it. But the problem would be actually figuring out how to buy it, because it's not, you're right, there's not like a clear market setup where now you can easily convert fiat currency into crypto. Like, it's just not a thing you could do easily back then.
Mhm. And so yeah, I think that like that sort of thing made it so that, like it couldn't go big back then, and now like I think it's more like I don't know if like is there gonna be a next Bitcoin, in terms of crypto, but I think it shows that investments, you need a lot of you need to be like really ahead of the curve to really like be able to ride the wave, or even just see the beginning of the wave riding, and just like be have the balls and have the money to jump on it,
Well, I
and like
mean, that's
be aware.
well, I mean, that's been true all the time. That's true for every sort of major investment thing. I mean, that's how the stock market was. I mean, uh,
Mhm.
but I mean, I always say like the next big Bitcoin. I don't even think it'll be like. I don't even think it'll get as high as Bitcoin. I just think the next cryptocurrency that's really going to be the one that is more of a surefire thing, and I even think it's a better alternative than Bitcoin, which is Chainlink. I have full confidence in Chainlink as a crypto, and I should it ever fail, I will be more than surprised. I will be flabbergasted, because the way Chainlink is backed up and just the rate of its growth is too steadfast that it should it fail, I would be. It's unbelievable to me. Now I know it's stupid, because especially in finance, nothing is ever too big to fail, even though seemingly that is true with a lot of American governments or American companies.
Well, I mean they're backed up by the government, but like
Yeah, but they
if you
shouldn't be. They really
of course
shouldn't be.
they shouldn't be, but it's like it's like
Who?
always in history, it's always been a ruling class that always gets its way, like,
Yeah.
and here it's just the same, when you see that Napoleon's descendant works in like a huge bank in London, and that you see that like Louis XIV, like his descendant is like some fucking rich ass kid that lives in the US,
Wait,
and
is
even
that
like
true? I thought we killed like all of them. I thought we
Oh
beheaded.
no, I mean technically, like it's like we beheaded the family, but there's you know how it is with nobility. You kill like all the sons, all the cousins, all the brother, all the sisters. So you're gonna go all the way back to see some old granny that the grandpa shagged like 50 years back, and they're gonna see like the grandson of that person, and they're just like, oh, by the way, you're next in line for the throne. You know what I mean?
Jeez, of
There's always a
course.
way out.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is with nobility. I mean, well, it's a weird thing when you get down to it, because I mean, if you had like George Washington's like descendants now, I mean, they would be treated like royalty by the government, you know. But
Hmm.
I mean, like no really great presidents have descendants that are treated that like they're not treated like descendant of nobility just because we don't do that. But if it came to Washington, their descendants probably would be. I mean, Washington didn't actually have any children. He didn't have anything. He had like kids he adopted, and he had like children from his wife's first marriage and everything, but he didn't have any actual blood children, which is maybe a
Hmm.
good thing because if they had been around, they probably would have tried to push like them to be the next like presidential candidate and everything, you know? And that might have
Hmm.
been an earlier form because I mean now that's very common. Like if your father's a senator, you could easily fall into being pushed to be a senator yourself later in life. You know?
Hmm. I mean, it is how it is. You know, like when you're like a rich person, it's much easier for your children to become like part of the upper class than it is if your children like if you're a fucking peasant or like a farmer or like not like big farmers, you know, but like a small farmer or like that sort of thing, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Mellow, most farmers are big farmers, regardless of what you do, because I mean, a farm to really be classified as a farm, it's still like a multi-million-dollar, like
Well, not in
thing.
France, not in France.
Mellow, uh, I yes, I mean, well, no, but I mean, like in America, you know, most farmers are producing produce that is meant for the American population or anything else. I mean, like even a small farm, like my family is from farmers, and like we used to get like checks every month or every couple months after the sale of harvests. And we owned the farm, but we didn't operate the farm anymore. It was being run by someone else.
I mean, my family's farmers as well, and like we don't get like we even have like I think some grape like vineyards, but like it's like the thing is like it got all like once my grandfather died, like it all got divided between people, and my claim on that, assuming that like all my family members related to it would die, is like 1/16 of like a fucking of like a tiny ass portion of a like vineyard.
Well, I mean,
Like essentially, it'd be more trouble than it's worth.
Well, I mean,
So
hey, at least you get to keep yours. I mean, after my grandmother died, we got. I mean, my grandmother and she had two like older sisters. She had an older and a younger sister, and unfortunately, due to like financial things, after my grandmother died, we had to sell both of the parts. Cause my grandmother had my mom and her brother, my uncle, and each of them got my grandmother's land. You know, half of it.
mhm.
When she died, but due to financial thing, they had to sell it to one of my aunts, and now my aunt has a controlling majority of the farm, and her immediate like sons and daughters and everything are going to get it. And like if I ever wanted to try to get the family land back, I'd have to buy it back, and I'd have to pay through the nose, and I'm talking like uh, six figures. Like it is.
I mean, here it would have been the same thing, like pretty much, because like, you know, this is like the whole notarial thing, you know, where you have to pay money like every time like people die to get inheritance, and then there's just like the familial dispute because like all this part of the family that owns like the rest of the farm isn't on very good terms with my family, and even then my father isn't on very good terms with his brothers and sisters. Essentially, it'd be such a mess that like for me to even touch and see any of that like land, I'd have to like spend hours and like
No, yeah, it's a lot of like
thousands for it.
yeah, it's a lot of
It's just a mess.
it's a legal like mess. I understand.
But yeah, back onto crypto. Cross, is there any other crypto other than Chainlink that you think has any potential, or any future technology that will have the investment potential of crypto?
When it comes to like future tech, man, I mean it's so nebulous. I mean there are things you can always say. I mean like space travel is always a thing, but I don't really have faith in it anymore. You know. and like
Hmm.
medical like investment is always like a safe thing, but I even then it's there's so many new medical companies popping up and they can go under just as quickly as they like come around, so it's just not a smart investment. I don't know. At times, it's just a better thing to stick with what you know. Pretty much. I mean, you invest in companies that you use, and you don't ever like invest in like the large companies. You don't go out and think like, okay, I'm gonna buy increments of Apple or anything. I mean, that's stupid. It's not worth it. What you do is you go and you buy stock in like Roadrunner Transportation or something because you always go to like Roadrunner gas stations and you use them. And it's just that sort of thing where like investment is 90% putting your money where your mouth is and buying stock and a stake in the companies that you use the most, you know?
Hmm. Absolutely.
But when it comes to like trying to predict the future, I mean, honestly, the best investment for your own future is retirement funds, and even then, I wouldn't even say that's the best alternative. I mean, the the best thing you could do is actually try to invent something or start sticking your money into a Cayman Island account. But that would require so much money that at that point you don't even need to really worry about like investing. Because if you're trying to hide money from the government, I mean, you probably already have too much.
I mean, yeah, exactly. But all in all, we can all agree that the economic situation is a mess. I'm not looking forward to the future, and most people are gonna suffer a lot. And I think that like once this happens, we're gonna have a lot of social unrest, and it'll be interesting to see how like modern technology and like that augments improves the influence a state can have over its population.
Yeah.
Like the internet and like video cameras and like all that stuff, and the fact that people don't have guns anymore, at least in Europe. Like I think it'll be really interesting to see like how the social issues will go, at least in the Western world.
Well, I'm definitely saying within the next 5 years, we're definitely going to see like a major paradigm shift in like just how the world is. I mean, we've already seen like a major shift between, I would say, 2012 and 26 and 2020. Just in 8 years, we had like a ridiculous shift in politics, ideals, how the world works, the economic system, and everything. And
Hmm.
I don't think we're going to have another great like leap in things, but I do think we're going to have, like you said, like a lot of social changes, and I don't think they're probably going to be for the best. I think we're going to be looking at a lot more government oversight and things, and a lot more like your neighbor keeping an eye on you. I think we're going to lose a lot in terms of you being able to be yourself and just being yourself and not having to identify with a group of people. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And
Yeah, that's just.
I think as it goes, like the online space. I mean, because when it comes to Europe, especially the Europe and the EU, I mean, the EU and the UK, you guys have already lost like quite a bit when it comes to internet ability. I mean, some things are blocked. You can't go into them. They're passing law to like further copyright on things in Europe. And
I mean, I think that like it's based on American copyright laws and stuff. Like,
well, I mean, but we don't do that. I mean, like we you can't copyright like certain things in the U.S. just because they're so like when it comes to what you can copyright, they have to be able to prove that like it's their creation, that they're being used in a way that garners monetary like gains, and
I
that
mean, it works kind of the same way. The thing is like all the like YouTube and like Twitch and all that thing, those are American companies. And when we European streamers get fucked over because we played like 5 seconds of like a copyrighted song or something,
well,
that's because of American copyright
yeah, but
and
that's not
stuff.
even the copyright I'm
I don't
talking.
think I
That's
don't
not
think we have like that many issues with copyright.
Well, that's not
I'm
even
more
the
saying that
copy.
we have issues
No,
with
but
like
Mello, I mean,
blocking
don't you?
websites.
No, but I mean, Mello, don't you remember a while back when you guys passed like Article 13 and everything, and that allowed like,
And then nothing happened.
well,
Like
okay, but Mello,
nothing very.
You say that, but at the same time, things have happened. It's the same with like how America like lost net neutrality. Like it's seemingly nothing happened, but things have changed. I mean, due to net neutrality being lost, now you have like you go on YouTube and your ad will play at like 1080p perfect HD with no buffering. And a 30-second ad will play no issue, but then your 15-minute clip that you're trying to watch will come in at 240p and buffer every 2 seconds. And that just that's how it happens. It's like it's in I forget what like the expression is. It's like tyranny is not in giant leaps, it is in small changes.
Hmm.
It's like they do.
No, yeah, I get what you mean. Like
Yeah.
the nothing happened. That was mostly like fucking with you, but like more seriously, like to look at it on the brighter side, like the European Union still can block VPNs. Like right now I have this VPN. I just pop it on and I can go on any website that like France is like, oh yeah, don't go on that website. It's not good for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, we're not like we're not like entirely powerless just yet. I think as time will go on, we'll start to run out of things that we can like. We'll start to run out of like freedom and whatever. But there's still like places where like you are allowed to say like things that don't go with like the norm with the masses. You can still say things that like are considered illegal by the many governments. And there's like you have like apps like Telegrams. You have like places, even though it's full of shells. You can go on 4chan and say whatever racist, unironic, Nazi shit you want there. Well, provided you're on the right board. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
there's still some alleyways from like expression, or you can go on your private Discord server, and the furry mods there aren't gonna like give a shit about what you say unless you're like actually planning to like make another 9/11 or something. So like,
I mean,
I
Mellow.
think we're
Well, I mean, Mellow. The only thing,
not
the
all of
only,
it is lost yet.
I mean, the only 9/11 you should actually think about is 9/11, like a furry convention. I mean, that's the greatest good you could do.
I mean, I wish I could do that, but the consequence, furries are all extremely wealthy, and if I got caught, there would be extreme consequences. I wouldn't be surprised if at least one, if not more, people in Congress weren't furries.
Well, I mean, Mello, don't you remember? There literally is that one woman that's like either a state level congressional member or
Mm.
like a federal congressional member that is a furry. Forever ago, she got like that. Like she asked what a fursona is, and someone drew her it, and then like later there's like an update. She like bought a fursuit, and it's like we've gotten to this.
American taxpayer dollars at work, baby.
Yep,
American tax.
yep.
At
We
least, yeah,
we pay
France
these.
might use it for dumb reasons, but at least we're not buying fursuits for that.
Yeah. Well, Mello, furries are cringe. They need to be like shot on sight for the most part. But you know what's not cringe? The Japanese, for the most part, and a really good thing the Japanese have done to be able to get back at us and tax us for dropping the nukes on them, the A bombs, is VTubers. And
VTubers.
the best thing that has come out of the past 2 years is the creation of VTubers. And Kizuna Ai kind of kicked all off. She literally coined the term VTuber, and
I mean,
she did it without even really thinking about it. She kind of said like it's like I'm a virtual YouTuber, VTuber, and now
I think
we
it's really funny
yeah, and now we just
because
have go ahead,
yeah.
go
No, go
ahead,
ahead. You go ahead.
and now we just have
No, yeah.
multi-million-dollar like international companies that are like becoming large entertainment companies that sell goods and are raking in millions of dollars.
I mean, to be fair, so far we only have two. There's Hololives, there's Niji Sanji's, not Niji Sanji, and like some more or less big companies. Like I don't know what the company behind the Kizuna is called.
Well, Kizuna Ai actually, she was independent because she was something else, and then she's like been bought and sold by a couple different companies. Because each
Mhm.
time that happens, like the person who was doing Kizuna Ai gets retired, and someone new gets brought in, and that really kind of ruins who she is because it's like,
Yeah, she's changed like voice actors, quote unquote, and stuff.
yeah,
So
But Mel, let's start with you. How did you actually get into the VTuber like rabbit hole?
Well, I mean, everyone knows about the Sakura Miko Niga video. I think that was the starting point for a lot of it. You know about it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Playing
yeah,
GTA, just the
yeah.
guy just being like, yo, yeah, ass haircut, N word. I mean, like,
Yeah. Mello,
and she repeats,
Mello, tell us where's your
it's a
mom
hit.
from again?
She's from, well, she's French, but
But
but her father was from the French islands in the Caribbeans.
hmm
So
so yeah, just to be clear, Mello definitely has the N-word pass. So
that
plus
sounds like
plus
my
he's
mother.
plus he's European, so literally who cares? He doesn't have the
I mean,
same.
I mean, now we are starting to care because of American politics. But
Yeah.
anyways, that's what we are talking about.
No.
Actually, like my experience with VTubers, it started a while ago because back on YouTube when I was younger, there was this proto VTuber person whose name was Aileen, and she or like the team behind it made videos, not like streams like VTubers do nowadays, but videos of her and her little characters in funny situations, playing games, etc. And I think like eventually, like when the big VTuber boom happened with Kizuna Ai and that sort of thing, and Mirai Akari, no, that's not her, that's and Kaguya Luna and Zero and all those VTubers. I think like her channel like I remember she complained a lot about having no money, and a funny character trait that she had was that like her character would be so poor that she would only be eating grass from like gardens in the street. And I think like there was something that happened when she got bought out or was by Sony. Like she had her own company thing going on, and so she had a few VTubers doing the little things, doing videos. I know that like her part of her group is like the English VTuber Natsumi Moe. I don't know if you know about her, but and yeah, they mostly did video content as opposed to VTubers nowadays who like do streaming content. But
Yeah.
it was very old, it was very old VTubing technology, like it was text to speech, with like little characters like animated, and I think like you can see the evolution of VTubing through that. There were like pro people like that who were proto VTubers, and then you had the big Kizunai boom, and then you had like Kaguya Luna, and you had Zero, and you had all those people who did videos, and then you had like the second big VTuber boom through Hololive and Niji Sanji, who like did all their streaming videos, and that's now like where success lies. Streaming is extremely popular nowadays, more than normal videos, from what I understand.
I really gotta wonder what actually happened to Kaguya Luna because I haven't seen anything from her in a long time. Like,
I mean,
I know that Kizuna Ai like still does stuff because she's like well, I mean she's like a product now, but Kaguya Luna, I mean she was as big as Kizuna Ai for quite a while and they collaborated quite a bit, but she kind of seemingly disappeared. I don't know if that's because I wasn't paying attention to her or if she kind of like got lost in the mix of new talent.
I think that might be the latter. Like it's like the internet, things evolve and change a lot. Like 2 years back, you didn't know who Dream was. You didn't know all that stuff, and now it's there's the talk of the town, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And like former celebrities get forgotten for like new ones, like people like I don't know, Tobascus, or like I don't know, like I don't know many English YouTubers who like were pretty popular at some point and pretty much disappeared over time.
Well, Total
But like
Biscuit, but he unfortunately died of cancer. So, but
yeah, it's not very
I
good.
mean, there are other ones like Toby Turner. He was a thing. Uh, I, I don't know, man. Most of the
Smosh,
yeah,
Smosh.
yeah, Smosh. Most of the old like school YouTubers, either they stuck around like critical, but it's either that or they just kind of fell off or they got arrested or they broke off to do something else. I mean, old YouTube is pretty much dead. The last remaining members of like old YouTube are it's almost just exclusively critical. He's really pretty much the last remnant of original YouTube. Pretty much everyone else either sold out, stopped doing it, or just died.
I think that's the fate of like most online entertainers eventually. Like one day Dream will be a nobody, and one
Yeah.
day like most of the whole life will be like I mean, it's a company, so it might be different,
I don't
but I don't
think.
really know how it'll go.
No, I don't think
Will it
Hollow.
just like fall off, or will it
I
evolve
don't.
into something
I
else?
don't think Hollow Live will like fall into memory because I mean it's so integrated into the like anime community and everything else that
Hmm.
I mean you have the anime from like 30 years ago that people are still very much like fans of and watching, and I
I mean,
think
the thing is like
good.
anime has been like archived and stuff, and like because it's not like it's videos that Hololive is putting out. Like anime has been archived because it had like physical support and all that. Now you have all these videos from YouTube who only subsist on YouTube and on some people's like hard drives. Then, but like they're getting rarer and rarer. And when like your content is pretty much exclusively like live streaming videos, which are multiple hours in length, like not as many people are gonna be able to download it and look back at it like you might look at a video
Well,
from like I don't know Tommy Turner or whoever you were speaking about. And I
well,
think like
I
eventually like there won't be as much art archive and as much like
well, I
you
think
know
well, I mean cuz
rewatching
Hololive already
potential.
does it with the Hologra like series where like they put the characters into sort of a thing, but I think there is enough out there where people are producing media and there's enough in the cultural zeitgeist at this point that the characters and the people associated with them are not going to be easily forgotten. I would say even in like 5-10 years when I'm going to guess a large part of like the current like Hololive lineup have graduated or whatever, and we're on like generation 8 or 10 or whatever. I still think people are going to be talking about like Coco or Aqua and talking about like, hey, I remember this. I remember this cute like thing they did and this interaction they had, and I think it's going to be kind of like how you have people who are fans of old content producers from YouTube, but it's going to be able to keep around because of the character, you know. It's that's one of the superior things about VTubers is that they're the mixture of the character that's being portrayed and the person behind it. It's not 100% either one, you know? And I think
Hmm.
that allows more freedom because you're not feeling like you have, especially with VTubers and the good ones. I mean, they're not trying to form this parasocial relationship, and so I think people are able to more freely enjoy them and not associate with them or associate them with like being their friends. You know?
Hmm.
Uh,
I get what you mean, but I
yeah.
think that regardless, like YouTubers feel the niche for like relationships that like a lot of people needed, and both because of COVID and like the idea that the quarantines and not being able to go outside and see people. We needed those entertainers. I
Yeah.
think they were like they were very lucky because the big boom happened at the moment where they were needed.
Yeah.
And on top of that, like just in Japanese society, I think that like they're like very much they're very useful for all these
Well, I
horny
mean,
men and women
it's
who
very
don't have
much.
friends who can consider them as friends. I think
Yeah.
so. I
Well,
think
I
like
mean, it's really building off like the idol industry because I mean, the idol industry has been a major thing in Japan for a very long time, and it's kind of building off of it, but it's not quite the same. I mean, you still have those certain like creepy guys that are like, if you hear anything about any of the girls like being
I
in a
mean, what the
relationship.
dogs say.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but that's just part of the internet. I mean, there are creepy weirdos on the internet that are always gonna do dumb bullshit like that and ruin things for everyone else. You know?
I mean, like to the point where about Lulu from Neji Sanji. You know why she quit, right?
Yeah,
She quit because of like stalkers, because
yeah.
she's had multiple death threats and like stalkers. Like she got letters at her home and she didn't feel safe. Like Neji Sanji for once, and the police apparently they did their job and they arrested like the stalkers and stuff, but they kept coming.
No,
There came more and more,
but Mello, that's
and so
like a
eventually she had no choice.
but I mean, Mello,
She
that was an issue back with the old like idol industry. Even that's always been an issue because like people become obsessive fans and they become stalkers. I mean, back in the day of like the '80s and the idols and everything, like idols would get like death threats and everything in the mail, and that's why they couldn't be public about their relationships. It just it that is a I mean, yes, Americans do it too, but we don't have the same. I mean, it's so different because Japan is such a small place. You can easily try to seek out someone easier than here. I mean, yeah, there are some people that will be extreme with stalking, and if you are like a person that lives in New York and the person lives in California, they will literally drop everything to go to California, go to New York, and start trying to integrate themselves into your life or something. But in Japan, it's a lot easier because it's like, okay, this person is obviously in Tokyo. I'm also in Tokyo, and now I will just try to find what district they're in and try to determine where they live and everything else. And it's creepy, and it's cringe, and it's awful, and it you're a bad fan, and you're a bad person. I mean, that's obvious, but
Absolutely.
it just
Because like yeah, if you value your own like satisfaction and pleasure and whatever over the well-being of the woman, the person that you admire, yeah, you're definitely not a good fan. Because a good fan would know to stay in their lane and support them in a way that actually benefits them and makes and uplifts them instead of like making them worry and making them uncomfortable and that sort of thing.
yeah,
I think it's something that a lot of people have forgotten how to do.
yeah. Uh, well, we've gotten way into the deeper aspect of VTubers than I really meant to, but it's fine. Mel, who would you say is your favorite like VTuber personally? It could be Hololive, it could be Niji,
Well,
just whoever.
well, in Hololive, I'll like I'll just say like based on agency, like in Hololive, it's probably gonna be Marine. I think like she's got a cute voice. I think she's funny. I love her design. I really like Marine. I like Kiara as well. I think Kiara's got a cute design and she's very
Mm-hmm.
hardworking and she really gives it her all. Sometimes you feel like the others like Mori doesn't really put out three, or like Ina is just like kind of always doing same kind of chill things. Gura and Amelia, whatever. But Kiara is always very high energy and always like trying out something new. She's always trying to be the bridge between Holo JP and Holo Ian, and I like that a lot about her.
See, Mel,
But otherwise,
Mel, I'll fight you on a lot of what you just said because while there are certain aspects of things like I
I mean,
don't.
I'm not saying that like they're all bad, but sometimes it feels that way, and you don't really feel that with Kiara, is what I mean. And you don't
Well,
take personally that
yeah, but I mean, Kiara has her own issues. Like she won't allow her to feel success or anything like that, and that can kind
well,
of be
absolutely,
that can be grating at times. But
well, absolutely,
but at
absolutely.
the same time, we're not here to talk about like the negative aspects of the girls and everything.
The industry,
We're
yeah.
yeah, no, no,
We're here to be uplifting. We're here
yeah.
to be
Well,
positive.
I wouldn't use the term uplifting. That sounds a bit gay, you know. No,
Pride month is over. Pack it up,
yeah,
boys.
no. Okay. So you really like Marine. You really like Kiara. So, I
But
mean, go ahead. Go ahead.
outside of Hololive, like I also follow another agency. There's like lots of small Western agencies. The one I follow that I've always liked is Sundaria, which is a very nice, very tight knit agency. Because when the girls for there are with one another, when they collab with one another, you can tell that they're not like co-workers or whatever. They're really like friends, and it's always like a lot of fun because they all like play off each other so much because they're like a real friend group.
I
And
mean,
out of all of them, my favorite is Meru. Let me get her full name because I can never remember it. It's right there. But
well,
my favorite is Meru, and
yeah.
she's very honest about her feelings, and you can see that she's trying her best, and that she really has like big plans and all that, and that she'll keep on following her dreams, and I really like that
Well, I
about
mean,
her.
man, that's really how I feel about a lot of Hololive. Is that I mean, they're coworkers, but they also like definitely are like friends. I mean, they were all kind of well, a lot of them were kind of like outcasts before they kind of got into it, and now they've kind of like done the found family trope almost, you know?
Hmm. I getcha, and here it feels the same way, but somehow it feels more tight knit than Whole Life. Maybe it's because like the smaller audience, they feel a lot closer to you because oftentimes the chat is small, it's like slow enough that like you have a good chance if your comments insightful to have it be read. Her full
Yeah,
name is Matsuro Meru, by the way. There we are,
yeah.
and she's just yeah bundles of fun, and I like her a lot, and I want to support her and the company all around her because I think it's company culture that's very very good. You have a lot of black company stuff. A lot of company issues, and I don't think that like Sundaria is all that dysfunctional. I think they're doing. I think the girls are quite happy with with the company, and that's something that's really important to me.
Mm.
And so yeah, I've been liking those a lot.
Uh, well, as far as my favorite with Hololive, I mean, I guess I'll separate out into JP and EN like you did. Uh, I always want to say like my favorite JP is Corone because she's the one I got into, but I'm not even sure if that's accurate. I mean, I really just like all the girls. I mean, it's really hard to make a split like I like this one specifically the Beck because they all have like their different aspects of why I like them, and it's like trying to say I like this one because of this is like, but there's another one that does this I like, and it's just hard to say. I mean, with En, I could be more precise. Even though I watch all of En, I do have like one I like best, which is I like Ina quite a bit. You know, I like the soft demeanor. I like her background in art and everything, and I really like her character design. And it just Ina is very my sort of speed. She's very calm and like she's very like she likes what she's doing and she knows how to keep it entertaining without being like forced. So it always sounds very fluid and natural to me. And her
Yeah.
interactions with people are always very interesting. And I mean she's just really cute, man. I mean she's just really incredibly cute. I mean so
Hmm. Personally, like I'm a bit quote unquote picky with VTubers because like I think that kind of a deal breaker for me for VTubers is if like they manage to grab my attention for long enough, you know, because there's like I don't have much free time, and so you know when I want to make the best of it, you know, I want to play my video games, and if I'm gonna be watching someone else do something, it has to be like something that's like new and exciting, you know, and which is why I like someone that's more high energy, like Marine, like Mellow, like Kiara, over someone like Ina, you know, but also yeah, like something that that I think is important as well is that like the VTuber that plays like if she or he is playing a video game, he needs to be competent. I've watched a few indie small VTubers that like you know were playing a game and they weren't reading the text, you know, they weren't reading the tutorials and kept getting bodied over and over again, and I that's just something that I'm not a fan of, you know.
well, I mean,
Both sides are hearing.
I feel like that's a universal thing, though. Like, anytime you watch a streamer do something, you want them to at least be semi competent at the game they're playing. You don't want them to
Oh, you'd
just
be
suck
surprised.
all the time. I mean,
You'd be surprised.
they are
I've
not.
seen
They are not
a
dark.
VTuber.
We do not watch someone because they're Dark Side Phil. We watch Dark Side Phil because we want to. We are wanting to watch the sideshow. We're not. We don't want everyone to be DSP.
Hmm. No, I get you, but you know, like you'd be surprised because I've been in some VTuber streams, like a lot of people, and the VTuber was playing I think Fall Guys, and she was just absolutely like garbage. Like she like you know those memes that are like woman moments where like it shows like some ego like playing a game and she absolutely fucking sucks. She's not even trying. She's like, oh my god, this game is so bad. It was literally like it felt like a comedy out of this. Like I was laughing because it was just so ridiculous. Like
Mm-hmm.
at how bad she was. And I know it shouldn't be good. You know, I'm not gonna name her because that wouldn't be nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely
Well,
definitely it's a big deal breaker for me.
Well, when it really comes down to it, being a fan of VTubers, there's definitely like the two levels. You either have like people that are more like surface level fans, like they've opened the can of Coke and they're starting to drink a bit, but they haven't reached the bottom of it. And I think that's about where I would say myself I am. But for you and a couple other people we know, you are a little bit more in depth in that like you go on like boards to read stuff, you know like facts about the people behind the characters and everything.
The thing is, like,
And like you
I
go ahead.
go ahead, go ahead.
No go.
Okay, well, basically, like, the thing is, like, I wouldn't, I hesitate to put myself on the level of the people that you've mentioned. You know, I can think of someone right now, and I don't think I'm on that level because again, my schedule doesn't allow it. so that I can't watch like that many streams. I can catch like parts of streams, like clips or whatever. And I am interested in VTubers, but I'm mostly interested in like what's going on, with the management and not necessarily the people, behind the avatar, like just like the kind of like the relationship they have of one another, and if they're doing good, and that's what I'm interested about.
Mm-hmm.
And the stream I think is important, but due to the nature of it and my timetable and my personality, it's hard for me to just go and like watch a VTuber stream like from the beginning to the end and just look at it. And I just like all the universe around the VTuber rather than like the pure content that they produce, if you get what I mean.
No, I
So
understand.
that's why I don't like calling myself a VTuber fan or anything like that, because I'm quote unquote a fake fan. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's like I don't get to watch as much as I want.
Well, Mellow, I guess next week on the next episode, we will have you back, and we'll be talking to a real VTuber fan, someone I would say is almost, I would say, an expert in the field, and you and him are going to be discussing the more in-depth sort of aspects of the company, the sort of community around it. That's that sort of thing. Next week we'll have Mello and our VTuber expert Olaf on, and they'll be discussing VTubers and a couple other things. But till next time, Mello, say bye to the people.
Bye, people, and I hope to see you next week.
And you want to say anything in French for whoever?
Bah, écoutez, merci d'être venu, ça me fait très plaisir. Je m'attendais pas à ce qu'il y ait des gens qui viennent écouter, mais je suis extrêmement surpris et de la bonne manière. Donc voilà, j'ai hâte de
I
vous revoir la semaine prochaine.
I understood at least some of that. Well,
That's good.
well,
Sixth grade French still stuck.
yeah. Well, everybody, I once again want to welcome you all to the True Man's World. And next week, another episode. In the meantime, see ya.